So, Junior, what are you up to? What are you searching?
Actually, I am looking for the best mutual fund. I want to invest. I've got some money from my bonus. I'm looking for the best mutual fund.
Best mutual fund. Uh, Before that, can you help me with something?
Sure, sure. Why not?
I'm looking for some supplements. Which is the best supplement?
Best supplement. See, it depends. What are you looking for? What is your deficiency? Is it vitamin D or B12 or what are you looking? It all depends. There's nothing called best supplement.
There is nothing called best supplement. Hmm. I have one more question. I'm looking for some antibiotics for some bacterial infection. Can you tell me which is the best antibiotic?
Best antibiotic? Can I recommend to you, senior? First, see a doctor. Secondly, bacterial infections can be of different kinds. What is your bacterial infection? So it depends. So there is nothing called best antibiotic. It all depends.
There's nothing called best antibiotic. Okay, okay. Uh, can you tell me what is the best mutual fund?
See, best mutual fund, it all depends. What is ah I know what you want to tell me. You are a wise man.
Hmm. Don't worry. You also will be wise when you reach my age.
So now that we both know it depends, uh, can you tell me how to find out what is the best mutual fund for me?
Well, watch this video. Remember, sit with your wife and watch this full video, and you will know which is the best mutual fund for you.
Yes, surely, senior. I will. Thank you.
And what about you? Are you also looking for the best mutual fund? Watch this video, and by the end of this video, you will know which is the best mutual fund for you and which is the mutual fund not for you. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned. So, this is the most common question I have been often asked. Can you name the best mutual fund? Can you tell me which is the best mutual fund? And my answer is often, which is the best antibiotic for you when you fall sick? Or which is the best supplement for you? And I can go on and asking these questions. Which is the best mode of transport for you? Which is the best exercise for you? Or which is the best medicine for you? There is nothing best in this world for many things in life. For example, let's take a supplement. Which is the best supplement for you? You cannot answer that question. I have vitamin D deficiency, so this is the best supplement for me. But if you have a high, if you are high on vitamin D, it can be toxic for your body. So, what is best supplement for me can be the worst supplement for you. So you may have a deficiency of vitamin B12. So that could be a better supplement for you. Or maybe you need omega 3, or you may need omega 7, or you may need supplements for your joints, or maybe you need supplement, maybe a biotin, or whatever. So each of us are different. Our needs are different. Let's take the example of transport. Now, for a businessman, an entrepreneur, who has very little time and he's rich, he's got a lot of money, which is the best mode of transport for him? Obvious. I know you have the answer. It's flight. But is that the best transport mode of transport for a middle class average family who are going on a vacation? Probably for them, train could be the best mode of transport. It is economic and therefore are traveling, and they are not in a hurry. They can spend one night. So the mode of transport differs from people to people. For a young couple, a newly married couple who want to go on a weekend outing, for them, the best mode of transport is their own car. You see? Same with exercise. Which is the best exercise? The best exercise for you may be the worst for me. For example, I have a lower back problem for many years. I can't do some of the exercises, which lifting heavy weights, which could be the best for you. Maybe that is the worst for me. So you understand? Same way, there is nothing called the best mutual fund. It it all depends on what stage of life you are in. Are you single, married with kids, or you are retired, or will be retiring, or whatever? It all depends on your age. It depends on how much risk you can take. It depends on what is the time horizon. There are so many factors that are involved. Just like the doctor would not prescribe you a same antibiotic as for your children. Age is the factor, weight is the factor, right? So same way in mutual fund, there are number of factors, and in this video we will uncover all that. So by the end of this video you will know what is the best mutual fund for your stage of life, for your profile, and we will look at each of these subjects one by one. Let's get ready. So, are you ready? And as always, I would request you to have your wife with you. Don't think that your wife doesn't know, so it's okay. I can do it. No. In my last video, I had covered this, that one of the parameters to know if you're financially healthy is if you and your wife, if husband and wife both are working as a team. So please get your wife or your husband, sit together, take a pen, a notebook, and write down notes and make notes and understand this whole concept. So next time, if you are wondering what is the best mutual fund, you will know the answer. Okay, so let's get started. Have you ever been to the doctor and entered the clinic and looked at the face of the doctor and said, Doctor, give me the medicine. Give me the medicine. What is the best medicine for me? You will never say that. You never ask the doctor, what is the medicine I should take? On the contrary, when you get in, when you see the doctor and you start describing your problem, and what does the doctor ask you? Why you want this medicine? What is the problem you want to solve? Simple. Same way, when someone comes and tells me, I want to invest, is this the right mutual fund? Can I invest in this mutual fund? What is the best mutual fund? My question is always, what is your goal with this money that you want to invest? What you want to achieve this with this money? What is the problem you are trying to solve, correct, with this money? So a lot of us do not have written down goals, but when we want to invest this money, there is something in our head deep inside that I want to save this and someday use it. Now, it is so ambiguous a lot of times, and I'm telling this from my own experience. I have invested a lot in my life. Every time I could get the money, the bonus, or the regular investing, I never give it a thought. I never gave it a thought. And that's one of the big mistakes I made in my life. And I don't want you to make this mistake. Everything that you do, every work that you do, every activity, especially with your money, when you want to invest, it's one of the most impactful things in your life, investing your money. So you cannot think that I don't know what is this for. A lot of times when I ask this question to people, people take some time to think because they have not thought. Someone may say, I actually want to buy a house sometime later, so I'm investing. Now, how much you need? How many years later? Nothing, just have this ambiguous idea. Oh, I want to go on a vacation. Or someone, one of the common things that people tell is that this is for my child's education. I want to buy this house. I want to invest in mutual funds. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to invest for my child's education. I want a good future for her. So it's in your head. The only thing is you have not written it down. Now, unless you write it down, you will not achieve in the best way possible. Let me give you an example. For example, you want to reduce weight, you want to reduce your cholesterol or your sugar. There is some goal you have in your head. You want to put on weight, or you want to build your muscles, or you want to become healthy. That goal you have got. Now, what do? You just start randomly walking, exercising, or eating salads? No. You will write down as a plan, and then only you will be effective. If you are 100 kgs and you want to reduce your weight, can you keep it ambiguous? No. What you will do is you will write down on a piece of paper that I want to reduce my weight and bring it down to 80 kgs. I want to bring it down by 20 kgs. So in the next 6 months, I want to make it 80. When you write something specific like this, that is when you you write down, you will achieve your goal. And now, what has this goal got to do with the mutual fund? I'll come to that. Hang on, be patient. I'll take you step by step, and by the end of this video, you will know for yourself or for anyone who asks you this question. You will have the answer. So the first thing is, what is this goal? Now, as I said, you have it in your head, but what if you write it down? Now, let me take you through some of the common financial goals. Now, as I just mentioned about goals, these are also called SMART goals, where you write down that I want to reduce my weight by 20 kgs in the next 6 months. And to achieve this, I will go for walks, I will eat this and all that. That is something that you must write it down. Same way, you must write down your financial goals. So, what are the typical financial goals we all have? For example, retirement. Now, this is the most important financial goal we all have. We all will retire, and retirement basically means your regular income, your salary stops. And even in your wildest imagination, you cannot imagine that at 90 or 80, 85, 90, you will be going to your office and coming back every day and you will be earning a regular salary. No, that's not possible. Mentally, you are not, suitable or fit to do that kind of work, and also physically. And no one will give you a job then. You may follow your passion. You may, if you are into business, probably you may be doing your business or your profession, but that will be irregular income. But you must have money for your retirement. You must have enough corpus when you retire at 60 till 80, 85, 20, 25 years. You need money. You need regular money. And this is the goal, which is a very important goal. Another common goal is children's higher studies. Now, this is also a goal. We don't talk about it. We do not. Many have not written down that goal, but this is a very important goal. A lot of times we save money for this goal, not really knowing when we need it, how much we need it. A lot of things are involved in that. We don't know. So you can watch a couple of my videos. There are two videos you can check in my channel. One video is common financial goals, retirement. These are two DIY videos. There is an Excel sheet. You can download that Excel sheet and follow the instructions. Then one of my recent videos is newborn. Our children deserve a better future, financial and emotional. It's a lengthy video where I've actually explained how you can download an Excel sheet and calculate the financial goals. Then children's marriage. This is also another important goal, which we don't plan. And when the time comes, a lot of us may, liquidate our investments, our retirement money. I know there are people who have done that. A very foolish thing to liquidate your retirement corpus and spend it on your children's marriage. And if you don't have this money, what often people do is take loans. Now, this financial goal is very important. Now, you may be wondering, what has this got to do with the right mutual fund? I'm coming to that. You will know why I'm talking about this. Again, remember that we are not trying to give the best medication or the best supplements without knowing what is the issue, without knowing what is the problem we want to solve. And before you find that, and this is the financial goal, this is the problem that we are trying to find out. This is the problem statement. Now, if you don't have children's higher studies in marriage, you end up taking loans, which is very harmful for you. Buying a house, many tell me that they want to invest this for buying a house. What they mean is that they want to give this as a down payment, and then they will take the remaining loan. Then buying a car. I know a lot of you may have already bought car with a loan. Uh, this is not the best thing to do. Uh, Buying a car using by taking a loan. So I would strongly recommend don't do that. Save the money, invest the money, and then buy a car. Unless you are living in a place where there is no Uber, Ola, no public transport, and traveling is a hassle. So then you can still reconsider. Another common could be foreign vacations, right? You want to say you want to go for a foreign vacation, but you don't really plan that. And although this is not technically a emergency funds is technically not a financial goal, it's a part of your risk plan. But I've included here because a lot of times you may save this money for the rainy day when you lose your job, or you don't have a regular income, there is some issue, or there is some family emergency and you immediately need to you know withdraw 50,000, 1 lakh rupees. So that is when you'll need this. So the money that you have, which you want to use it for a future day, these are the goals. These are the financial goals. So it is very important that the money that you've got, you want to invest in a mutual fund, in the best mutual fund. You must first know what is it for. If you do not know, you will end up making lots of mistakes. And I'll come to some of the other mistakes that you can make. So it's very important that you must know where is this money going for. And why is it important to know? Because if you don't do, it's a mistake. So I like this quote by Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll is the one who wrote the book, the classic Alice in Wonderland. So there's a dialogue between Alice and the Cheshire Cat, and this is an adaptation of that. This is not exactly the quote, but the adaptation of that summary of that discussion is: if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And it is so important that if you don't know where you want to invest your money, you can invest it anywhere. So this is so important that you know where is this money going into. So remember, friends, every financial goal has an end date. That means the number of years from now. Just think about it, what we talked about: retirement, or children's education, marriage, or house, or a car, or emergency, whatever it is, they all have an end date. Emergency funds, we don't know when we will need it, but the rest of them all have dates. They are not tomorrow or day after, they have dates. They have a few years from now. So let's quickly look at, if you are a 30 years old person, we talked about all these goals. Just look at your current age. Retirement, your current age is 30, and your age at that goal is 60, that is retirement. So you have 30 more years. That means the money that you are now going to invest will be used 30 years later. For children's higher studies and marriage, today, if you have a child who's 2 years old, the age at goal is 18. That means 16 years later you need it. Or marriage, 26 years later. And you can adjust the age according to your child's or your plan, right? Buying a car or buying a house, 30 years, but you need it in 4 years from now. Buying a car, you need it 1 year later. Or a foreign vacation, you need 3 years later. You see, all of them have an end date. Unless you have this, the mutual fund that you want to buy or you want to invest will be a bad decision. And that's why I'm covering this. That's why this is the most important question. When you need this money, how many years from now? Now you understand? Because if you need money in 1 year from now, or if you need money 30 years from now, it's different. If you have cold or cough, a mild cold or cough, the medicine is different. But if you have a cold and cough which is very severe and is there for the last 1 month, the medication will be different. Same way, depends on your financial goal. And in a financial goal, one of the important considerations is is not what is the title of that goal, whether it is children's education, whether it is retirement. It is when you need it. The age, the time is important, the duration when you need it. What does that help? Now, if you look at 30 and 3, is it the same age? No, it's not the same age. It's different. And that is what I'll talk in the next section. What is that which is so important? So we have seen that every time you invest or every rupee you invest should have a goal. And we also saw that these goals have to be quantified. For example, it has to be quantified as retirement goals and children's education, buying a house or a car. They have to be quantified. And also, you must assign a number of years. That means how many years later you need this money. This is fundamental, a goal and how much when you need it. Now, 30 years from now is different from 3 years from now. You cannot take the same medication for something that you've got a, as I gave an example, for a cold vis-a-vis a persistent cough. Same way, for 30 years, you don't invest in the same mutual fund as you invest for a 1 year. So there's a big difference. And what determines that difference? And what determines the difference is the number of years. But at the same time, those number of years have to be categorized, have to be bucketized. You must have certain parameters, certain divisions. And what are those divisions? So again, if you look at 30, 16, 26, 4, 1, 3, we must categorize them. They are not all the same. So what is the category? And that is called a time horizon. And the time horizon, broadly speaking, there are three time horizons: short term, medium term, and long term. Now, you can break this into a little, you can break it into 4 or 5 time periods, time horizons. But to keep it simple, I have given short term 0 to 1 year, medium term 1 to 5 years, and long term more than 5 years. Now, even long term, there can be longer term, right? But for the sake of this video, we'll simplify it, keep it. And again, this is very fluid. Now, short term, somebody may say from 0 to 2 years, or they may say so 0 to 1 year, it's very short term. And from 1 to 2 or 3 years is short term, and then medium term and long term. So there could be several interpretations, but for the sake of this video and for simplicity's sake, I am giving these. Now let's take these and merge it with the Excel that I talked about: the retirement, children's higher education, buying a car, a vacation, children, and all that. 30 years, age at a goal 30, number of years from now 30. And which bucket does it fall into? Long term, because it is more than 5 years. Children's higher education 16, it is long term. Children marriage 26, it is long term. Buying a house, it is 4 years, that is less than 5 years, but more than 1 year. So we have put it into a medium term. Then 1 year is short term. Again, 3 years is medium term. So this is the way we need to segregate so that you can buy the right mutual fund depending on the time horizon. Now, time horizon is important. And how did we arrive at the time horizon? From the financial goal. Now, financial goal is important, which helps us know what is the time horizon. And based on the time horizon, we need to think of how to invest. So you can keep adding anything to this. For example, you have a money, you have some money, and you want to buy some gold later. Maybe you want to buy some gold for your daughter's marriage, which is 20 years later, right? So you take that money and you put it into the right bucket, which is the bucket, long term bucket. Or you want to buy a mobile phone. Maybe 6 months later, you want to buy a good mobile phone, but you want to save it. So what do? You take that money and start saving into which bucket? Correct. Short term bucket, because it is less than 1 year. So you can take practically anything. Let's take, for example, we recently renovated our kitchen. Okay, after 16 years, we renovated our kitchen, and we needed and we planned it in 2023. We decided that we are going to do it this year, by the end of this year, and probably we planned it in February, March or so, and we thought we will do it by the end of this year. Now in March, then we have how many? Uh, we have uh, we have around 9 months left for doing our kitchen. So now we want to use that money. We want to, for example, we have some money and we want to ensure that we have the money by the end of December. Which bucket is that? That's a short term bucket. So you can take practically anything that you want to purchase, anything you want to spend your money on. You want to buy a sofa set, or you want to buy, or you want to maybe go for a foreign vacation in the next, next 2 years, or you're thinking for a very good vacation in the next 10 years. Maybe you want to do a Europe tour or or Australia tour, but you want to spend there a lot of time, and you may want to do it after 5 or 10 years, right? Or you may have a goal: I want to build a hospital, or I want to build a school next 30 years later, or maybe 20 years later. You are 30, at 50, I want to have a school. 20 years. So you start saving, you start setting aside money. And what bucket? It'll go in the long term bucket. Correct. So, friends, everything, everything, my dear couples, if you're watching as a couple, everything that you want to invest per month, or you want to set aside as a lump sum, ask yourself this question: what is the financial goal? And then what is the time horizon, right? Whether it is short term, or whether it is medium term or long term. And then only you have to make the decision. Again, it is not that simple that for long term you invest, I invest here, so you also invest there. For short term, I invest in something else, so you also invest in that. No, it cannot be. It's like two people going with two people going to the doctor, two patients going to the doctor for COVID. One is a 5 year old and one is 50 years old. The problem is the same: COVID. Do you think that the doctor will give the same medication? No. Because of the age difference, the medication also will be different. And same way, friends, whether it is long term, medium term, or short term, not everyone will be recommended the same fund. This will be decided based on how much risk you can take. And that's called the risk profile. And that's what we'll see right now. So, what is the third thing, that the third component before we know which is the right mutual fund, is the risk profile? What is the risk profile? So, this is very important in investing and also in companies and organizations. Risk profile is a detailed evaluation of your willingness and ability to take on risk. Remember, we are talking about time horizon: long term, medium term, and short term. There are financial goals that are many, many years later in the future. And getting and reaching your financial goal at the earliest, or getting the best returns, is very important. So when you are investing, you are considering an array of investments. You're not just looking at some bank savings account or fixed deposits. We have talked, I think we all know, you're aware that it's very simple. We all know that fixed deposits or bank deposits do not give good returns. They do not beat inflation. So to beat inflation, we must invest in long-term securities which carry risk, right? So having a risk in investments, long-term investments, is very, it's given, it's common, because what is going to happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, none of us know. We are living in an uncertain world. There is some amount of certainty, but there is uncertainty too. For example, who knew COVID would come and hit all of us, hit globally? a virus can hit us globally, which became a pandemic. So nothing is certain here. So when you're talking about investments too, there is risk, and longer the term, higher the risk. And our goal is to get best returns, returns that beat inflation. And to do all these things, it involves risk. And we all know risk is something that is uncertain, we do not know, and that which has got a negative impact on us. And that is a risk. And it's very important that we must know what is our risk profile before we invest in the right mutual fund. So, risk profile is important, the time horizon is important. And what is a risk profile? What is the definition of a risk profile? So, a risk profile is a detailed evaluation of your willingness and ability to take on the risk, which means your willingness. Are you willing to? Do you have the ability to take on that uncertainty or that negative consequence? So, there are three components of a risk profile: risk capacity, risk appetite, risk tolerance. I know it sounds a little overwhelming, may sound a little overwhelming, not necessary. Some of you may have heard this, but some of you who are new to it, this is important. Is this important to find out which is the right mutual fund? Of course, very, very important. One was time horizon, but this I would rate it as far more important because this will determine how much returns you get and how and your whole well-being. So it's very important that we consider these three, and let's take a look at each of them. And I'll give you enough examples to help you understand what does this mean. What is risk capacity? So first, let's understand what is risk capacity. Let's read the definition and I'll then explain. So risk capacity is the amount of risk a person can take on without risking their financial stability or important goals. Let's see another definition. Risk capacity is how much risk you can take with your money without putting your future goals at risk. Now, what does this mean? Let me give you an example. Now, Indians love spicy food. I'm sure if you have traveled outside India and if you have to stay somewhere where there is no spice, food is bland, I'm sure you didn't like it. So let's take example of spicy food. Can a baby, a small child, eat spice hot with a lot of chili? No, because they have a very gentle stomach line, right? They have a very gentle stomach. Any spicy food can hurt them. What they can have is mother's milk, right? Bland food, dal, or anything, nothing spicy. But on the other hand, a young man or an adult, can they have spicy food? Yes. So you see, the baby does not have the capacity to eat spicy food. The baby's spice capacity is low, very low. They cannot. It only grows as they grow older. But for an adult, right, for an old person, they have a high capacity for eating spicy food. So, a little bit of the difference between capacity. Let me give you another example. Let's take an example of going on a roller coaster ride, maybe Disney World or some park, amusement park. Can again a baby go in a roller coaster ride? Do they have the capacity? No. How about a young 20 or 30-year-old person? They have a very high capacity. What about an old 80-year-old person, 90-year-old person? Do they have the capacity? No. So you see, the risk or the excitement capacity going on a roller coaster ride, the baby or the old person have very low capacity because they are not physically there. An old person has moved beyond that physical, that agility or that strength, so they cannot. So you see the difference, that a baby or an old person cannot, but a young person can. The young person has a very high capacity. Now let's translate it into investing. Same way, person who has a lot of wealth, billions of dollars, can they take a 50, 100, or 50 or 100 crore loss? Can they take that loss? For example, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, or, or, or Ambani's, or cricketers, celebrities, Dhoni or Sachin Tendulkar, can they take a hit of 50 crores? They have billions of dollars. Each $1 billion is 8,000 crore. So these people have a lot of crores. Can they afford to lose? Yes, because they have a very high risk capacity. Can you and I take that risk of 50 crores? We cannot, because our capacity is low. So the risk capacity is very important. And that depends on the wealth that you possess, or do you have any loans? Do you have enough emergency funds? Do you have enough money on your financial goals? Are you having a regular income? What's your age? All these factors put together tell whether you have the risk capacity. For example, a 25-year-old man or a woman who's just started working, their capacity, their risk capacity is very low. But somebody who's in their 50s and have a lot of wealth, their risk capacity is very high. So you understand? So a person in their 50s can take a risk of a few lakhs, but a person who has just started working cannot take a risk of even thousands. See the difference? That is risk capacity. Very important when you invest, and when you want to invest in the right fund. Then comes risk appetite. What is a risk appetite? Let's look at some definitions. Risk appetite in investing refers to your desire for risk and potential return. It reflects your attitudinal preference for how much market volatility and a potential for loss you are comfortable with in exchange for the possibility of higher returns. So, as the name suggests, appetite, that means that desire. Do you have that desire for taking risk? There are some people who do not have the desire. They say, no, I don't want to take risk. ये नहीं चाहिए झंझट. But some will say, अरे देखेंगे क्या होता है. Again, let me take you an example, same example of spice. Now, you look at Indians. Do they have the appetite to eat spicy food? Of course, all of us have the appetite because we have grown up eating spicy food. What about people living in the Europe or US? Many of them do not have the appetite. Yes, there are some people who have, but most of them do not have the appetite to eat spicy food. Now, let's take the example of the amusement park. Roller coaster ride. How many have the appetite? How many of you have the appetite to go on a roller coaster ride? I do not have the appetite. I do not have the desire. I dread these roller coaster rides. I don't want to. I have been into some of them, and I've almost felt I'm dying. I just didn't like it. I don't have that desire. But there are some who want to enjoy. They are even willing to jump from planes and go on skydiving. They have the appetite to take that risk. So that is what is appetite. Do you have that desire? It is very attitudinal. It is got to do with your uh, your personality, right? So same way with risk appetite. So again, going back to the example of Jeff Bezos or Ambani or the celebrities or any of us, we may not have a huge, you may not have a huge wealth, but you can still have the risk appetite. There are so many there are so many in the markets, the stock markets in India, who do intraday trading, FNOs, who trade, who buy and sell in a few days. They have a high risk appetite, and most of them are not rich. Most of them do not have money. They want to make more money. That's why they do intraday trading, they do FNOs, and a lot of them lose. but they're willing to lose because they have a high risk appetite. At the same, on the other hand, there are people who have crores of rupees. They do not do FNOs, they do not trade, and they sometimes do not invest in high risk stocks because they don't have the appetite. Simple. So that is the difference between risk capacity and risk appetite. Risk capacity is how much money you have. Risk appetite is, do you feel, do you want to do it? Do you have that desire? And now the third, risk tolerance. Now, what is risk tolerance? Let's look at a couple of definitions. Risk tolerance is an investor's emotional and psychological ability to endure volatility and potential losses in their investment portfolio without making rash decisions or experiencing significant stress. It represents how much uncertainty or negative investment performance an individual can handle while staying committed to their investment strategy. Let's take a look at another example definition. Risk tolerant is the in investing refers to your ability to handle the ups and downs of the market. It's your financial and emotional capacity to withstand potential losses without jeopardizing your well-being or investment goals. Now, if you look at risk tolerance, it's very close to the risk appetite. There is a desire, but risk tolerance is goes beyond. I am willing to take a risk, but how much risk? How much risk I can take? And if you look at it, it's the emotional capacity. It's not just your personality, but probably your experience. You have experienced lots of ups and downs in your life. You have the strong emotional capacity. Again, going back to the spice example. Now, we Indians love spicy food, correct? We all have the appetite, but can all eat very, very spicy food? No. Now, in Hyderabad, people eat a lot of spicy food. In fact, some restaurants serve a lot of spicy food. Once I remember, we bought, we ordered a spicy food, and it was some spicy chicken or something. But we said, make it less spicy, make it as less spicy as possible. We want to enjoy the flavor. And they served that food, which was so spicy. So we wondered, what if it was the original spice? So I cannot eat very spicy food in Hyderabad. So if I eat spicy food, I have a stomach upset. I am in tears. My nose, I have a runny nose when I eat spicy food. I cannot. So my tolerance for spicy food is less. But my daughter, my younger daughter, she eats very spicy food. I know some people whom I know, my friends, they eat a lot of spicy food. I remember during the lunchtime when I used to work with Franklin Templeton, there are some of my friends from Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. They would offer their food, and it used to be so spicy. They have a very high tolerance for spice. I don't have. So my tolerance is less. You understand? I would love to eat spicy food, but only to a certain level. Again, let's take the example of the roller coaster rides. Now, roller coaster rides come in different degrees. There are some simple roller coaster rides. There are some roller coaster rides where people scream and shout. It goes up and down. So you see, how much can you tolerate? If there are 3 degrees of roller coaster rides, which one would you take? Will you take the highest degree? That means your tolerance for excitement, acceleration is very high. Now let's let's talk in the investment world. Now you may have a lot of money, but you may not have the risk appetite. You may have a risk appetite. Let's just imagine you have a few crores, you have got 10 crores, and you have the risk appetite, you can take risk. But will you be okay to see your 10 crores going down to 5 crores, losing 50% of your wealth? Will you? If you cannot, that means your risk tolerance is low. But there are some who are even willing to go 100%, willing to go 80, 90% losses, but they still are strong. They still keep investing more because they believe in the market. They've got a lot of experience. Their risk tolerance is very high. Again, risk tolerance need not have any connection to your risk capacity. That means how much money you have. But yes, risk tolerance has some connection with risk appetite, but risk tolerance is the degree of that appetite. Risk appetite is your desire for risk, while risk tolerance is your capacity for that risk. Another, risk tolerance is subjective, risk capacity is objective. Simple. Risk capacity means how much money you have. Risk tolerance is subjective. It depends on how strong you are emotionally, whether you can sleep through the night, whether you can go through without any stress. In 2020 was the best time to know your risk profile. The markets fell like crazy. Market fell several percentages. And there were many investors, retail investors or the other. They were panicking. They were afraid. They were scared. What they do? What did they do? They had a less risk tolerance. They could not see their stocks or their mutual funds going down by 5, 10, 15%. So they immediately withdrew. But there are some who invested more money. Now, I'm one of them who actually invested a lot in the stock markets and mutual funds because, of course, it was a small portion of my wealth. At the same time, I had the appetite, but I also had the tolerance to see if my investments go down. In fact, my mutual funds, which I had a lot of money in my mutual funds, they had fallen. But I was willing to take that risk because my risk tolerance was high. So now, how do you find out what is your risk profile? These three components will play an important role. Number one, how much wealth you have. Are all your emergency funds, all your financial goals taken care? If you have that much wealth, then you can take risk. You have a high risk capacity. But if you are beginning, if you're in your 30s, your risk capacity will be low. For example, I am in my 50s, my risk capacity is high. But you, if you're in your 30s, your risk capacity will be low. Risk appetite. What is your risk appetite? Do you have that risk appetite? I know a friend of mine who will not invest even in an FD, is comfortable with savings account. I know many of them who are comfortable with FDs. They say, no, 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 stock markets, I have heard you lose money. They do not have that risk appetite. And I know people who have got risk appetite, but they are careful. I know some who trade, who buy and sell. At the same time, I know some people who buy and hold and are very careful. They only buy safe stocks, safer mutual funds, right? So, how do you find out what is your risk profile? Well, there's a way. There are questions to find out your risk profile, and they are available on the net. You have to just Google and find out and just write down risk profile questionnaire. And there are several AMCs in India who will give you the link. Fill that link. There'll be questions to answer, and you will get the your risk profile. I'll share with you a couple of links as we go along. So, some questions on risk capacity. What is my current financial safety net? Do I have enough emergency fund? Do I have access to some other income? So I'm willing to take a risk with this extra money. That is what tells whether I have enough financial capacity, risk capacity. What is my time horizon for this investment? Is it short term or is it long term? So if I have enough money for the short term, I'm okay to take the risk for the long term. I have enough capacity. How much income do I rely on for my investments? That means, do I rely on my investments for my regular living expenses? If yes, then I cannot take a risk. If I have enough money coming in, I don't have to depend on my investments. I'm okay to take a risk with my investments. Let's take a look at a few questions for risk appetite. What are my long term financial goals? Are they aggressive? Aggressive goals like early retirement may require higher risk. Right. So, are you willing to take that risk for your long term financial goals? Do you have that appetite? How comfortable am I with potential losses? Can I handle short term fluctuations without emotional distress? It has got to do with your personality. What is my overall investment strategy? Growth oriented or income focused? Right? Those who are growth oriented have higher risk appetite. Income focused, look for safety. So these are some of the questions for risk appetite. And finally, for risk tolerance, question is, how has been my past experience with risk? Did I panic during market downturns? For example, in COVID time, did you panic? If you panic, that means your risk tolerance is low. What is my emotional threshold for risk? Can you stomach significant losses without losing sleep? Yes, there are people who lose sleep when they see their investments going down. Their tolerance is low. Such people should not invest in high risky products. How would a major financial setback impact my life? Loss of investment could jeopardize your well being. Will it affect my health, my emotional health, my being? Will it put me into stress? Then my tolerance is low. But if I'm strong enough, I'm okay to take risks, higher risks, even if to see 20, 30, 50% losses, I'm strong. That means your risk tolerance is high. So once you do this questionnaire, you get these three risk profiles: conservative, moderate, and aggressive. What is conservative? So, conservative risk profile reflects an investor's preference for low risk investments with minimal potential for loss. These investors prioritize capital preservation and are willing to accept lower returns to avoid significant fluctuations in their investment value. They have their risk capacity is low. They don't want to take high risk. They may not have enough money. Their risk appetite is low. They don't have desire to take any risks. So obviously, their risk tolerance is very low. Conservative, as the name suggests. Are you a conservative? Is your risk profile conservative? You know what kind of mutual funds you need? We'll come to that. Just hang on. The next section is the right mutual funds. Second, the moderate. A moderate risk profile indicates a balanced approach to investing where the investor is willing to take on some risk for the potential of high returns. This investor wants high returns, and he or she knows that to get high returns, I need to take higher risk because there's a relationship between risk and returns. So a moderate person, a risk profile is willing to. So if you have invested in stock markets or mutual funds, your risk profile is moderate. Finally, the aggressive risk profile represents an investor's willingness to take on high levels of risk in exchange for the potential of substantial returns. These investors are comfortable with significant market volatility and the possibility of large losses. Are you an aggressive? Is your risk profile aggressive? Now, how do you know? As I mentioned, there are lot of surveys, links on the net. I'll just share with you a couple of them. Click those links, answer those questions, and you will know whether your risk profile is conservative, moderate, or aggressive. Based on that, we have to take the decision which is the right fund. And to get that, we must know the risk profile and the time horizon for the goals. Hang on, I'll just share with you a few links and then we move on to the last and the important part. So I just typed risk profile questionnaire with score. Let's see. So let's take Mirai Asset, risk profile, accept. And here you have those questions. What percentage of your monthly income can you save? Right? So the higher you save, higher is your risk capacity. So, for example, 10 to 20%. And then I move on. The next question: what is your age group? So, younger you are, your risk capacity is higher, right? And then, what would be your ideal time horizon for mutual fund investments? Okay, if it is 3 to 5 years or more than 5 years. So, you can keep answering these questions. And finally, you will come to know what is your risk profile, whether it is conservative, moderate, or aggressive. And that will help us to find out what is the right fund for me. So I'm sure by now you have made the conclusion that there is no right mutual fund. What may be right for him or her, to my friend or to my colleague, may not be the right mutual fund for me. All of us, we need different supplements, we need different antibiotics, we need different, it's customized. It depends on who we are. And same way with mutual funds. So now in this last section, we'll talk about the right fund. What is the right fund? So, what is the right mutual fund for me? The right mutual fund for me is a combination of time horizon and risk profile. And time horizon is a result of the financial goals. So you see the process. Number one thing is you need to ask, what is this money used for? What will this money be used for? What is the goal for this money? And depending on that, what is the time horizon? And if this is a time horizon, what is the risk profile? And I'm sure you agree with me that somebody who has got a conservative risk profile cannot invest in the same fund as somebody who's got aggressive risk profile. Same way, somebody whose time horizon is medium term cannot invest in the same fund as someone whose time horizon is long term. So they are different. So how do you make sense of this? So what is the right fund? For example, somebody who is got a moderate risk profile and they have a medium term goal or a medium term time horizon. Which fund? And that's what we're going to do in this section. I have prepared a table. I've just given scores for uh, each of the horizons and the risk profiles. And what we will do, we'll try to come up with a number which will help us, which will make it easy for us to make selection of funds. Now, just a disclaimer here, and before I proceed, some things to tell you. Um, some notes. I'm not going to be talking about specific funds. I'm not supposed to give you the names of funds. I'm not authorized. Second is, I'm not getting into details of the various categories of funds. There are 4,000 funds. There are number of categories. According to SEBI, there is equities, there are debt, there are hybrids, there are specialty, that is thematic funds, there are index funds, fund of funds. So there are various types of funds. And even under each of these, like equities has got various different types. Debt has got types depending on their average, the maturity and the duration, and hybrid has got types depending on the risk. So there are a number of funds. This video we will not be able to cover all of them. I'll try to give you a gist which will help you conceptually how to approach. Probably my one of my upcoming videos, my subsequent videos will be a detailed deep dive into funds, right? So we will keep that for this video. We'll keep it, we will have a very broad understanding of this, so that once you get this concept, either you can make those decisions, or if you have a financial advisor, which I would strongly recommend, when he or she, your financial advisor, invests in a certain fund, you can always tell, this is my time horizon, this is my risk profile, I want these type of funds, right? So we'll talk about briefly about this table. So here is a table with imaginary scores. So these are just given. I have scored them myself. There is nothing scientific about it. It is just based on my judgment. I have scored to help us conceptually understand this and connect it with the funds, with the right funds. So short term time horizon, I have given 1 as a score, medium term 4, that is a difference of 3, and long term, it could be beyond 5 years, 10, 15 years. I've given it as a 9. And score for conservative, I've given 12. Moderate is close to that 15, but aggressive is much higher. So using these scores, I was able to get, I got a combination, a product of a combination which will help us select the right funds. So here we have short-term different risk profiles. So I've given a score of 12 for a short-term multiplied by short-term and conservative, and 15 for short-term and moderate, and 25 short-term and aggressive. That is, the scores are a short-term multiplied by conservative. If you in the previous slide I'd given the scoring. So since it is short term, less than 1 year, and if your risk profile is conservative, that is lowest risk, you cannot afford any risk. So you have got overnight funds, which have got typical 1 day maturity, liquid funds, roughly 91 days maturity, and ultra short duration between 3 to 6 months. So they're very safe. You will not lose any money in the short term. They will steadily go up. You'll get less returns, 4, 5, 6% returns, but it will be safe. Safe in the sense it will not be volatile. Then comes short term moderate. Now, again, you can use short, ultra short, and low duration, which is between 6 to 12 months, and money market up to 1 year. So the maturity, the average maturity or the duration slightly increases. Of course, that's the reason. That's why the risk also slightly goes up, which means there is a slight volatility that can happen, but by and large, they are safe. And then comes short term aggressive. Now, if you have money which is there for less than a year, around a year, but you are an aggressive risk profile, you can take a little risk. For example, you can have money market, which is 1 year maturity, short duration 1 to 3 years, and medium duration, which is more than 3 years. So they are slightly uh, more volatile because their duration, their maturity periods are higher. So your money, you may see some volatility, but since you are an aggressive risk profile, you can take it even if it is 1 year. You can still take a chance. Now, again, this is just a recommendation. Please talk to your mutual fund advisor before you do this. The goal of this video and this slide is to give you conceptually, to make you understand how you can make your decisions. What are the funds you can try? Because based on your risk profile. Then we move on to the medium term risk profiles. There are different risk profiles, but medium term. Now, medium term, again, I've given a score of 48. If you see here, the score was 12, 15, 25. Here, the score is 48, 60, and 100. It keeps going up, jumps up. Medium term conservative, medium term moderate, medium term aggressive. Now, what are the funds? Now, if you have money, which is for medium term, that is between 1 and 5 years, and if your risk profile is conservative, right? So what do we do? What do you do? Again, you look at uh, bonds. So where you have the medium duration, which is uh, 3 to 4 years, and medium to long duration, which is more than 4 years. Corporate bonds, which are long maturities, uh, could be 5, 6, 7 years, but they are triple A rated bonds, which means highest security, highest credit risk. Then, if you're conservative, you can also add some conservative hybrid funds. Conservative hybrid funds are where 80 to 90% are in debt, and a little portion is exposed to equity, some equity. So it's conservative, but for a period from 1 to 5 years, you tend to have a steady capital appreciation. Then you have the medium term moderate, where you can add gilt funds, where 85 to 90% are government securities, which have higher maturity. Then the balanced hybrid funds, where you've got 60 40, 60 debt, 40 equities, or 60 equities, 40 debt, depends. Dynamic bond funds, where which have got maturities across. So they are dynamic in nature. So the fund manager can actually take that call. Then, if you are aggressive, you have a high risk profile, and it is between 1 and 5 years, you can have balanced advantage fund. Balanced advantage funds are again the dynamic hybrid funds, where the fund manager has the freedom to increase the equity portions or increase the debt portions depending on the market conditions. Floater funds, where the interest rates increase or decreases as the as the interest rates increase and decrease in the market, those are reflected in the floater funds. So again, you're taking a high risk. If you feel that the interest rates will go up, you can take that call. Gilt with 10-year maturity, which means high risk again, uh, high volatility, because if the interest rates fall or go up, it reflects on the price of the bond. So they are quite aggressive in nature. But if you see here in the medium term, I have tried to add a lot of the bond, the debt funds, and hybrid funds. I have not chosen to have any of the equity funds. Now, again, you may want to add, if you're an aggressive risk profile, you may add probably index funds, because in the next 3 4 years you may see appreciation. But I've not added here, simply because I want to leave this concept with you that for medium term, less than 5 years, equities are not the right options. However, if you are aggressive, you may have some exposure of index funds. Now we move on to the last part, which is the long-term different risk profiles. Now, long-term, again, if you see the score, 100 is the score for medium term, but for long term, it starts with 108, 135, and 225, a big jump, depending on those scores which I gave. So long term conservative. What do you do for long term conservative? You have long term, which is 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but you do not want to take a huge risk because your risk profile is very low. You may have just started investing in equities. So you do not have that risk appetite. So what you do is you can invest in large cap index funds or hybrid aggressive. Hybrid aggressive, again, it has got up to 80 to 90% of equities, and then hybrid balanced advantage, where you can have 80 90% equities, or the fund manager keeps changing. So here there will be capital appreciation, but low risk, low volatility. Then as the risk profile increases, when it goes from conservative to moderate, what happens is you have large cap index, but you also have large mid cap, which is a combination of large caps and mid cap funds. Now, again, remember, mid cap funds are very volatile. They're high risk. They can drop by 10 15%. They can even go up over a period of time. Then flexi caps, which is a combination of large, mid, and small caps. There's exposure to uh, all, uh, uh, all all categories. And finally, mid cap index funds. Because your risk profile is moderate, I think you can obviously have a exposure to mid caps index funds. And then finally, aggressive, where you can have flexi caps, mid caps, small caps, multi caps, thematics, which are sectoral funds, which are high risk, value funds, which are high risk. You don't know what the returns will turn out to. Contra, where the fund manager takes a contra view, and then international funds. So in the aggressive long term, you can really add any types of funds. Now, again, as I mentioned, this is just indicative. This is just to help you understand the concept that as you move from short, medium term to long term, and as you move from conservative, moderate to aggressive, how your fund universe changes. Now, the question you may have is, am I stuck with the risk profile? Obviously not. Just like the example of spicy food, yes, initially you may not have too much spicy food, but later on you may add. You can actually, as you grow older, you may change your food habits. Same with the theme park or the roller coaster ride. You have a high risk appetite, you may have a low risk tolerance, but later on, then you feel, let me try some, more exciting rides. So same way with your risk profiles, it can change over a period of time. Initially, when you start investing in mutual funds and stocks, obviously your risk profile is very low. It may be conservative, but later on, as you get exposed more and more, you become stronger emotionally. You can take higher risks. So you become moderate. And then over 10, 15, 20 years, like me, I've been in the industry for 30 years. When I initially started, I didn't know. I found, I thought that the funds, the markets are high risk. But now I know, over the years, I've seen that stock markets, they are volatile, but over 5, 7 year period, the risk is zero because it gets ironed out. The volatility gets ironed out. And for the funds, and as you keep investing, the volatility keeps reducing and it becomes steady for you because your portfolio is large, and even a slight jump or fall in the market will not affect your portfolio. And that is the beauty of compounding. That is the beauty of stock markets. And you know uh, risk profiles, your risk profiles can keep changing. So now let's do a quick summary of what we have done so far. How to select the right funds. So as we talked about, as we discussed, there is no right fund. There is no one size that fits all. There is nothing called right funds. It's every fund that you need to purchase, you need to invest in, depends on your time horizon and risk profile. Let's do a quick summary. First, we talked about goals, that every investment you make, every time you have money that you want to invest, the first question you need to ask is, what is this for? What is the goal? What is the financial goal? Is it retirement? Is it children's education, house, car, mobile phone, emergency fund, or whatever? There must be a purpose behind a behind every investment, just like taking every medication or supplement. Whatever you do, there has to be a purpose. Second is time horizon. I want to invest this for how many years? Now, this is connected to your financial goals. If it is retirement, means long term. If it is buying a house in the next 2, 3 years, which means it's a medium term. Or if you want to buy something within a year, it is short term, right? If you want to use your money for short term, medium term, long term, you decide the time horizon. And then you decide what is the risk profile. Risk profile includes risk capacity, we saw, how much money you have, risk appetite, do you have the desire, and risk tolerance, how much can you stretch. Then risk profiles: conservative, moderate, and aggressive. Conservative is someone who doesn't want to take much risk. A moderate is someone who can take some risk. Aggressive, who wants to take a lot of risk. And finally, the time horizon multiplied by the risk profile gives us the right mutual fund. Again, this is not something that is final. See, because I have tried to cover the concepts. For example, time horizon between 1 and 5 years is not the same. If it is 4 or 5 years, your choice of funds will be slightly different than 1 year. To keep it simple, I've kept it 0 to 1, 1 to 5, and more than 5. Now, again, if it is 5 or if it is 10 or 15, the choice of funds will differ. And this understanding of choice of funds will come over a period of time. The goal of this video is financial literacy. I want you to understand the concept. That is the goal. Eventually, you must have your own mutual fund advisor or a financial advisor who will help you. But knowing these things will help you know what are the funds that are selected by your financial advisor. You can always question, you can always ask, why this fund? Now, again, this is not the final. There could be a few more topics that can be considered, like asset allocation. What happens if there's a lot of equity? Should you have continue to have more of equity? No. Again, you have to do asset allocation, but I have covered the asset allocation in some of my other videos. So for this, the purpose of this video was help you get that concept that there is nothing called best mutual fund. The best mutual fund for somebody else could be the worst mutual fund for someone else. So now, to answer the question which everyone asks, and even you would have asked, what's the best mutual fund? But the question should be, What's the best mutual fund category for me? That is the right question. So now, if you get a bonus of a lakh and you want to invest, what is the question you're going to ask? Five questions. Number one, what's the goal for this money I want to invest? What's the time horizon for the money I want to invest? What's my right risk profile today, right now? What's my score? What's the best mutual fund category for me? That is the right question. And these are the five questions you can ask, and you will get the answer. If anyone comes to you and asks you, this is what you can tell them. This is the question, this is the answer you can give. So I hope you have got your answer. Yes, we will, in my upcoming videos, we can actually get into more details on each of the mutual fund categories. So finally, as we conclude, I want to understand, I want to know from you, what have you understood? Did you really understand? Did you really like this? Did it add value to you? Please let me know in the comments. I'll be very happy to hear your comments. Few comments, one sentence comments, or whatever. Just write and let me know whether this added value. If this did not, if you feel that this was not adequate, please let me know. Your feedback will help me to improve my videos. And as I always mention that I am a money and marriage coach. My goal and my mission is to help young families to build their wealth and their relationship. I want to see you leave a legacy of love and generosity. If you have liked this video, please share a like, a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to this channel so that these videos will be recommended to many more who need this. There are many who do not understand, do not know. There are many who just keep investing blindly without much knowledge, just because uh, it's the fad, it's in style. The markets are markets are going up, so everybody wants to invest, but that is not the way to invest. Probably in my next video, I'll try to cover in depth all the different categories, equities, hybrid, and debt categories in detail, each of them, how they are useful, how you can invest, why you should invest, probably connect to this video. I had to limit this video to this because otherwise it will become a very lengthy video. I hope, you liked. I hope you will continue to watch these videos and increase your financial literacy and grow your wealth. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye.